Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder of the Bobby White Foundation.
Good morning. I'm Bonnie Snyder, your co-host.
Hey.
Hey.
Welcome. We're going to switch things up a little bit today because we have a guest. We haven't had a guest in a while, but let's get some business taken care of just in case we run out of time at the end and don't get to do that. So first, of course, we want to thank John and Rob with Area 52 Media Group. Without them, of course, we wouldn't even be here. They're great, awesome. Support them, us, whatever way you can. It's really, really important because otherwise we can't be here.
Absolutely.
And remember, and I don't know if it's happened yet, but Smile.Amazon is going away. So that's one avenue of support that we're not going to have, but we've got other avenues coming along.
Absolutely.
Also, I just want to, actually one of those is coming up, I think it's February 21st, the Rooters Mixer at Slice of Life Pizza. It's the Slice of Life Pizza at Ridge and Little Road. Anybody's welcome to come. I think it's $5 for food, which is like nothing. They put out a spread of pizzas and salads and stuff where I have baskets for a raffle. So it's a little mini fundraiser that Rooters does for us every once in a while, and it's always a really good time. We kind of take over the pizza place.
That is nice.
Yeah.
And Slice of Life is good food.
Yeah, and Bob, the owner, he is very supportive with a lot of things in our community. So support them, even when you're not coming to our thing.
And see, what I like about, the thing I like about Slice of Life, I didn't know this until recently, that my supervisor on my daytime job, I guess what I call it, she and her husband actually started that location. They were the original owners of that location. So I'm like, wow, we're coming full circle. So yeah, really.
Yeah, so that's really good. And we do have coming up, we're still working on the date, that the Freedom Boat Club of Tampa Bay is going to be doing an outing for our lost survivors. It's a morning trip out to the stilt houses, kind of like a little bit of mini history lesson and relaxation, just being out on the water. I think they take us out to the stilt houses and then back up the Cody River to Sims Park and then back to Catches. And,
Nice.
And so that's going to be nice. We're still working on all the logistics of that, and so hopefully we'll have a flyer and stuff to get out to people pretty soon. And I think that's what I can remember. Do you have anything?
And I'm sure we'll have some time at the end, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just in case we have forgotten anything.
Okay, I think that's what I remember anyway, and what I wrote down. You guys messed me up this morning. I had a schedule, and then we got a text.
I know. I was in another meeting, and I get this text message to say, "Can you guys film early?" And I was like,
I know.
let me text our guest first.
Well, and that's what I texted back. I said, I don't know. We have a guest, Bonnie.
So thankfully, we do have our guest. So, that was a really nice segue into, as you guys know, when we first started this show, one of the reasons for the show is, to highlight not only, grief and loss, but, we're blessed that it's a platform to have people to share their stories. As you guys know, Tammy and I have shared our story, from day one, and we're into, oh my God, year 2.
Right.
And so, every once in a while, we're blessed to be able to have somebody from the community, to come on, and share their story and talk about, their journey through, as a part of this club that nobody really wanted to be in. So I am blessed and I am honored to introduce the guest that we have on today. Our guest is Tammy Moppin, who recently lost her 16-year-old son, Carson, to an overdose. Tammy's actually joining us from Missouri. And I have to disclose, that Tammy is a dear, dear, longtime friend. I knew Tammy before Tammy had children.
Oh, wow.
I knew, and we'll share a little bit about that. Yeah, I'm sure we'll share a little bit about our back history. But yeah, I knew Tammy before Tammy, had children. In that, get a little emotional here because I remember when she was pregnant with Carson, I watched, Carson grow up and seeing him a couple of years ago when I was, actually, was it last year? We'll do some timelining. But I got to see him, when I went back home and then to find out that he was gone. So anyway, without further ado, please welcome Tammy. Thank you for joining us. It's good to see you. I wish it was there in person, but
Thank you.
Love you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So again, Tammy, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. So the first thing we're going to do, kind of what we do with the guest is, tell us a little bit about, you, and, also share with, our audience, Carson. Share Carsey is someone we called him Carsey sometimes, but share share Carsey with us if you would.
He was an amazing kid. He was a surprise, but he made my life so joyous. And I'm so thankful for all the memories I have of him and all the joy that he brought me over the short 16 years that he was here. Without, it's hard to explain, but he got into drugs. And when I found out, I put him in rehab. He did 7 weeks in rehab and graduated and did everything that he was supposed to do. And he got out on his 16th birthday out of rehab to start his new journey. And so we had to drug test him. We had to make sure that he was complying and doing everything right. And he was passing all of his tests. And then unfortunately, one morning I went up to his room to get him up for school and he was gone in his bed. And that was when this devastation started. And the reason I'm here today, unfortunately, I wish there was not this reason that I was here, but I'm happy to share his story if it helps prevent even just one more person from going down that road.
And so, Tammy, you talked about going and finding. I don't know if you can, can you share, that day with us? I know it's difficult, as much as you can and as much as you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what was that like?
Well, I was going to work from home that day because he had been bugging me to go and get his permit. And so, he was 2-3 months into him being 16. And so it wasn't something I was looking forward to, but I agreed that I would go and get his permit with him that day. So I worked from home, and typical teenager, was like 12 noon. And I said, well, I better go wake him up. It was the day before his junior year at school started. Let me go wake him up and get him started so we can get going and go do our errand. So I went up there and turned on the light, and the realization hit me within a moment. He was peacefully asleep in his bed until I noticed that he wasn't. And I called his name and I ran over to him, and he was laying on his side, and I knew within 2 seconds that he was gone. He was no longer with me. So I did what you do in a time frame of that is, I started CPR. I screamed at my husband to call 911. I remember trying to put in one breath in his body in a compression, but it was too late. He was already gone. And I remember thinking to myself, it's over. And that realization of the child that I had brought into this world was no longer in this world, just took me in a spiral. And I think it seemed like it was only 2 minutes later, and the police officer was there telling me to get off of him so he could do CPR. And then, of course, they rushed me out of his room and down the stairs. And I remember yelling up the stairs, give him Narcan, because that was one thing that I remember people talking about. This drug fentanyl, I had been telling him when he left the house, they're putting this drug in pills and making you think it's something else. And it was just all his drug tests had come clean, and then this happened, and I don't know if it was a one, I'm going to try it one more time, or I don't know. He's not here to ask, so I don't know. But that feeling of loss will never go away. I will never be the same person I was before his death. And it's just brought me to a different place in life, a place that no one ever wants to be in.
Yeah, of course, I understand, it's like our boys, it's like, well, Carson and Pat are probably up there like raising hell right now, we probably think. You created something for, to honor Carson. And I hope you understand what I'm hinting about.
Yeah.
There was something you created, for Carson. And can you, talk about, that platform that you created, but also, as I'm thinking about, things that I've, seen on that particular platform, how his friends in the community have really stepped up, to remember and, honor him.
Yes. It was a couple months later after he passed that I decided to create a Facebook remembrance page, the Carson Moppin Facebook remembrance page. And, all I have left are photos and videos and stories and memories. And so I wanted a place to put those where the whole world could see it, because he's never going to be forgotten. As long as I take a breath on this earth, he will never be forgotten. And, you know, life goes on no matter what, no matter who you are, life always goes on. But I wanted this page to remember him and show the life that he lived, because in his 16 years, he had this incredible life of things he did and events and happenings and friendships. And so the turnout of friendships started at the funeral home. I When I had to make the arrangements for my son at 16 years old, it's nothing you expect. So you have nothing thought about. But I had decided, because he had so many friends, and then after his passing, these people just came out, these kids came out of the woodwork. They just bombarded with me with how much he meant to them, how much he helped them, how much he brought them solace in their life, how much he was able to help them in their journey while going through whatever he was going through. And so I decided to have a funeral where we would have an open casket and show his friends. I wanted his friends to see him laying in this casket, to know that one pill can kill you. We had done everything that we thought that we could do, rehab, getting him back on the right track. He was on the right track. And so we don't know, of course. I can't tell you for certain, but, was this a one-time slip up or whatnot? But I wanted those kids in the community, the ones that were all contacting me and telling me how much Carson meant to them, I wanted them to see what happened to him and know that he made a mistake, he made a choice, and hopefully him losing his life would be a way for them to choose a different path. Maybe, that they won't take that pill from a stranger, or whatever the case may be. And so I created this page too to bring that awareness and share all those memories that I have with him.
Yeah, and as you can see
Take the pictures.
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can see on the screen, our tech Rob had a picture of the Facebook page, the Carson Neil Moppin Remembrance page. But
yeah, the turnout to the funeral and for those children to see him laying in his casket, the amount of people that attended was, I never even thought about, that many people where they would need to park across the street and walk across the highway. I just didn't think about that. I didn't realize how many people my child touched until after his death. And so his memory has to stay alive because these people, these kids, they loved him. And I've had more than one person come up to me and tell me that he saved their life. He was there at 4 a.m. when they called. He was there at 2 in the morning when they texted. Whatever they needed, he was there for them. And so I have to keep that alive, and I have to change my life to be there for other people like he was. He has inspired me to do that.
Well, and I think, again, for me, knowing Carson personally, he was, I just remember he was quiet most of the time, but, in being like as quiet as he was, he had this huge heart. And, I just remember, he was a little chunky baby. And then, he grew up, he still was like, to me, I always looked at him, I was like, oh, look at my little, the little linebacker, something like that. But you're looking at, this kid who, and Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, he seemed like he loomed larger than life because he was like, he was,
he was
Rob,
big.
Rob, I think we sent some assets in if you have them. But he was not a little kid. He was but just the gentlest soul, and that smile was infectious. I remember going back to the Midwest. Tammy's again, like I said, Tammy's with us from Missouri. But I remember going back to the Midwest, and Tammy, her mom, her stepdad, at Carson came to see me in the hotel, and just like, oh my God, kid, you've gotten so big, And like I said, I remember when Carson was Tammy's baby bump, and like Tammy said, he was a surprise. Like it was like, wait a minute, what? You're usually I know with this, So yeah, Tammy, if you could share with us, because Carson's not, is not your only child, it's not your only child.
Right.
Tammy has a daughter, Lauren, and I don't know if Lauren's going to kill me for sharing this story. And again, like I said, I knew Tammy before she had kids, but Lauren, is her oldest daughter, and I'm going to have you share, a little bit, what is this, been like for Lauren, as well. I mean, I wish, we could have had her with us, but
well, yeah, when I found out, when I had to tell her, I didn't want to tell her over the text that her brother had died. So she was in school at the time, and of course I was trying to call her. And then she had her boyfriend call me and say, hey, what's up? And I said, just have her call me as soon as she can. And so I told her over the phone. Of course, she rushed over, and she's just, devastated. That was her only brother, her only sibling. And she is as devastated as I was. And she was his protector. And she, being the big sister, she was 3.5 years older than him. And when he came into this world, she was right there like a little mama to him, taking care of him. And then over the years, she was his protector. And she was very quiet and very laid back. She didn't, cause a lot of issues or stuff. But the tables turned when they got a little bit older, and then he became her protector. So that was really nice to see that change, and the love and the bond that they had. And so it has been difficult on her too. A lot of people don't think about the siblings, but she's gone through a lot of issues with them, and she's very, very upset too that she lost her brother. And she is doing amazing. She is right by my side through this whole thing, as well as my husband, and has been there to help me through it. And we just spent hours and hours and hours talking about Carson after his death. And we remember the joy that he brought us. He brought us so much joy. And when you get to this point, after that devastation, it's been 5 months. It's never going to go away, but you learn how to focus on the joy that they brought, the goodness that they brought to this world. And I'm trying to emulate that as I go forward in my life.
And, one thing that I really enjoy seeing is things that you post, where you're posting you and Steve, and you're like, oh, we're doing this, and it's just like Carson is here. Oh, we've done this, and oh, it's just like Carson is here. Or I want to say, if you could help me remember, there was, I don't know why I'm remembering here recently that it was something that you did that was specific, like for Carson, in remembrance of Carson. I'm trying to, was it a trip?
Yeah.
A recent trip?
No, we were not expecting this at all, but Carson was very excited. We had planned a first vacation in 8 years that we were all going to take together to go to Texas. So he was super excited about that. We planned it when he was in rehab. He had this great trip to look forward to. And then unfortunately, this happened. Well, we had to continue with our trip. So it was some weeks we had time to plan, where we ordered some things offline so we could spread his ashes in the ocean on our trip. And so that's one of the things we did. We also spread his ashes along the trip and on the way back. So he was there with us on our trip, a trip that he so was looking forward to. Unfortunately, he made a bad choice in taking a pill, and then he couldn't join us. So it was a very bittersweet trip. It was 10 days at the beach in Texas, and it was incredibly fun and sad at the same time, because although he was there with us, we brought his ashes, we brought his pictures, we played his music, we remembered everything about him on that trip. He wasn't there physically, but he was there spiritually with us. And that was a really nice time to know that we could bring him along with us. Even though he wasn't there, it still helped.
Yeah, like I said, looking at them, and like I said, knowing this family, like we've been an intimate part of each other's lives for a long time. And I still got a bite. I joke about a bite mark on my shoulder. When how old was she? A year? Was she
8 months old when we came down to Tampa that year.
Well, how old?
8 months.
Yeah. So Lauren, Tammy's daughter, was like 8 months old, and I was here in Florida, going through, I was in polygraph school. And Tammy and her mom, Linda, who Linda's like my oldest and dearest friend, on the planet. But they text me. They were like, hey, we're gonna come visit you in Florida, and I was like, cool. And so it was like, let's do Disney one day. And so I had a friend who worked at Disney at the time, and I was like, oh, you guys are coming to Disney? I said, I got the hookup. And so, our friend got us into Disney. Well, anyway, long story short, we're going from one side of Disney to the other. And we were on the train, and I was holding Lauren. So, Tammy and Linda, that's her mom's name. Tammy and Linda were like in a couple seats above me, and I'm sitting a couple seats behind, and I'm holding, Lauren and whatnot. And, she's, like most 8 months old, the next thing I know, she chomps down on my shoulder, and Tammy just heard me scream. It's like, what? And I was like, she bit me. It's like, she just bit me. And I just remember hearing Tammy say, Lauren, and I was like, no. But then we figured out, no, she bit me because she liked me.
Yeah.
And so from 8 months old to Lauren's now what, 20?
20. She's 20.
So we're talking, for 20 years this joke has been going on. It's like, hey, every time I run into her or see her, like I went up for her graduation, I was like, Lauren, I still got that love bite. And I mean, when I think of these memories of like I said, getting bitten by Lauren on the train, to being there for baby showers and birthdays, and just watching this amazing young man grow up. I remember the day I found out it was the message on I had to find out on Facebook initially, but I was looking and I'm like, wait a minute, please let me be misunderstanding what I am interpreting here, because this one came out, and I just remember private messaging Tammy, please don't tell me that I'm reading what I'm reading. And we started chatting back and forth, and she said, he's gone. But Tammy, Tammy, this Tammy, Tammy.
I know, it's really weird.
Well, I was like, theoretically, she's Tammy 1 because I knew her first. But no, Tammy and I, are again blessed and honored, to have you, on the show, to share, the story, about Carson, and I understand, you're doing this from your office. And so, again, taking, the time out to, to share, the story. So, and I know, we probably have to let you go here in a bit. Is there anything else that you want to share? You hit on some key points when you're talking about, the give him Narcan. He made a mistake. This was, we think, or in this case, it was a pill.
Well, and it's been reported that is happening a lot with these teenagers. They may not have done any drugs prior to, and one pill, and that's all it takes these days. You just don't know, and it's scary.
And the really sad part is, I had the funeral, the open casket, like almost the whole school came, his friends, people from when he was in 3rd grade playing football, his coaches, those people came. But the saddest part was 12 days after his funeral, 3 of his friends overdosed on fentanyl. And so I don't know what more I can do. I put my son out there to show only one pill can kill, that it's not worth it. This is what can happen. And it still wasn't enough to prevent 3 more kids from overdosing. Luckily, they survived. One of them died and had to be brought back to life. They thankfully survived. And, I've heard one of the moms had gone on the news as well as I did to talk about it, because it's such an epidemic with these kids. You can get a pill off of Snapchat, and the police tell me that Snapchat is not cooperative about getting, who they get the pills from. To this day, it's been 5 months. I do not have his phone back from the police, and I still do not have answers as to where he got the pill from. So it's hard. You have to grieve on top of knowing all this stuff, and it's still happening around you, and you're devastated that it's going to happen to another kid, and it's just so sad.
And Tammy, I'm going to say, and again, one might argue, Bonni, you're biased. Okay, I am. I'll concede that. I have to applaud, when you said, it's keyed on something, she just said, I put my son out there, to illustrate, one pill can kill. And, as I can imagine, and I understand, when you are, first of all, as a parent, as a mom, planning a service for someone that you brought into this world, for one, and then, that's hard enough in itself. And then you are, processing the reason why you are planning, you just have to plan the service. And then what message, how do you carry on after this child is not supposed to go before me? Like the other thing, again, Tammy, I really apologize for this. We were sharing something, what was it, last night or the night before last, when we were talking about changing beneficiaries, and it's like, was that last night or?
Yesterday, yeah, last night I was changing my will. I hadn't touched it since when he was, a baby, and I needed to update it, and it made me erase my son, and it just killed me. And it's like it just tears that wound all open again, and then you're feeling it again, and you're dealing with it again, and the emotions raw again. And it's just, that's how this grief goes. It comes in waves, like the waves hitting on the shore, and you never know if it's going to be a big wave that just takes you down for the day, or just a few small waves that keep at you, keep at you, keep at you. I never want to forget him. I never will. He was a part of my life for 16 years, more than 16 years. I was carrying him in my body. So he's never going to be forgotten. And just wanting other people to know, I don't want anybody to go through this. I don't wish this on anyone. It is the worst thing I've ever had to deal with in my life. It's devastating. It's life-changing. I will never be the same. But I have to look for the good. I have to look, because I have to go forward. I have a daughter, I have a husband. I have to go forward. And so I have to find ways that help me go forward. And part of that is trying to live like him. I never knew my son was this wonderful friend to all these kids until they just started coming out and telling me. And so I made the Facebook page because I want their stories. I want their videos. I want their photos. I want everyone to know what an incredible person Carson was. And, the loss and devastation of not knowing what the future holds or could have held for him is just unfathomable.
And, Tammy, a final question for you is, when I heard you say, he'll never be forgotten, I have to go on. What are you doing for you? Again, Tammy and I, we've shared, different, books on, grief and loss. And, we talk about, the Survivor's Bill of Rights. We talk about the grief process being different for, different individuals. Additionally, we talk about how each of us, navigate, this journey that we don't want to be on, but we are,
Right. Right.
and so, if you could, what are some of the things that you do for Tammy that helps Tammy deal with, this devastating loss?
Right. Well, I go see a therapist for sure. That's one thing I do. Typically, it's 45 minutes of me her crying on her couch, but she insists I need to come, so I go. But more than that is I talk about him. I share about him. I post his pictures. I craft, make items that I can remember him. By put more pictures in albums. Put more pictures in frames. I just remember him, and some nights I'm just looking at pictures of him, and it helps me. It helps me cope. I have to find joy in the short life that he lived, and I have to go on. So I have to do the best for me to make myself go on. So therapy, talking about it, sharing it. I stay in contact with his friends. They call me Mama Moppin. They want to come hang out with me. And so I just do anything and everything that I can. I wear a necklace with his ashes. I wear a bracelet with his ashes. I have an urn of his ashes at work. I have an urn of his ashes in our camper. I mean, it's just a matter of me remembering him. He's always with me now. And it's about me remembering him and being joyous in his life and focusing all that good that he brought to my life and finding out what an amazing person he is. Because when you're 16, you don't go home and tell your mom that, hey, my friend called at 4 o'clock in the morning. They really needed my help. No, he acted like, you know, I'm the mom, so I'm not privy to that stuff. But finding this out after his death has just made me feel so much closer to him and so much more prouder of him. And I can bask in that, and that helps me get through.
Well, that's something. Well, Tammy, again, we thank you so much for, sharing Carson, with us. Personally, I thank you for, the many years of, love and friendship and, continue, of course, continued,
Right.
our thoughts and prayers, are, always with you and Steve and Lauren and, the rest of the family. And yeah, I'll be back in the Midwest here, pretty soon. And
Oh,
I'll make a
awesome.
stop in and say hi, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Um,
appreciate what you guys are doing. Everybody goes through this grief journey, no matter how the person they lost died. The grief journey is individual. And I have read a book by Dr. Raymond Moody about the grief process and how when you have this heavy grief and you start to grieve, you start at the way you first found grief when you were a child. And so I remember telling my therapist this. Sometimes when I'm thinking about him, I find myself puckering my bottom lip, like a child would. And many of my mannerisms in dealing with this grief have been childlike because I go back to that very first grief I ever had in my life. But it's just that journey is so different for everyone, and I would have never known this before. I mean, I've lost grandparents, but those people are supposed to pass on and you go on with your life. You're not supposed to lose your children. And so I find that helpful. Looking for that spiritual connection, I started trying to find out where's he at, what happens, that kind of thing. So just, educating myself, basking in that joy of who he was, and then trying to be kind to myself because I know I'm grieving and going through this process. And then doing the show. It's another part of healing. And people may not know, but every time you talk about it, you're healing just a little bit more. And so you have to talk about it, you have to feel it, you have to experience it, and then that's how you grow and keep growing through the grief.
Oh, we definitely want to thank you for coming on and sharing you and Carson with us. I mean, this platform, this is another way that, this is to keep our loved ones alive. I mean, this is why Bonnie and I do it, it's getting too close to that day. So,
yes, yeah, we're coming up on that anniversary.
I know. And, so, we don't want that one bad moment in time to define their lives
Absolutely.
because they lived much, much more than that,
Absolutely.
and again, thank you for sharing, Carson with us. And, down the road, maybe we'll have you back on the show and check
Sure.
in and see, how things are going, with you and the rest of the family as you continue this grief journey. It's like I said, I mean, we all say it, it's not what we planned. It's not
Right.
what anybody wants to be, in this club, but with help and support, and it sounds like you're doing it, the right way. And
I'm trying.
that's all we can do is
Right.
we do the best that we can in the moment, and
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Well, thank you both. I appreciate you both having me on. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you, Tammy.
Love you. Bye
Bye
bye.
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 Take care.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Thanks.
What a
Uh,
powerful, powerful interview and testimony. Like I said, I am biased. I am biased. Like I said, Lauren, her daughter is 20, and I knew her before Lauren was born. So we're looking at a good. I don't even know if I could think of how many. 90. Late 90s, we became friends.
Keep in mind, it's only been 5 months.
Right, and and the interesting thing about 5 months is she and I were talking about, when I asked her, this was shortly after the news of Carson. It was discovered that Carson was gone, and. And like I said, some of us, called him Carsey. I think his friends referred to him as Moppy or Big Mop. But anyway, I talked to her, and I think she knew about, she obviously knew about the show because, again, she, because my Midwest family and friends were really huge source of support for me, and for our family, one, losing Aiden, and then, when we lost, Pat, and of course, for Tammy and, her family and whatnot, it was kind of losing a part of them as well,
right.
Again, because, our kids knew each other, it's not so much that they hung out, but they knew, knowing me and being,
right.
We're us being best friends, we know each other's, children, even though our children didn't know each other. But I said something, I had mentioned to her, and I was like, hey, by the way, if you ever want to come do the show, let me know. And right away she was like, absolutely, I would love to. And I'm like, okay. And when I hear her say, it's only been 5 months, again, I jokingly go back to when you and I first met.
Oh,
and Tammy and I were talking about that, as a matter of fact, we were we were chatting last night on the phone. So I was like, no, this is what's going on. I just wanted to kind of let you know how the format. This is how it's going to go. We'll link in, and Rob will send you the link. Whatnot. But anyway, and I think her coming on, and what I've witnessed her do, after Carson's, after losing Carson, is a testament to grief affects us all differently.
Oh yeah.
And I think some would think, how do you have this conversation 5 months, after losing your son? And I think the answer is either A, because we can, or I think more so it is because we have to,
I think it's probably both.
Yeah, exactly, or a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Because I liked when she said, when we said, what are you doing for you? And she said, living, and I'm paraphrasing, mind you,
right.
Living my best life, keeping his memory alive, talking about him. And I know, again, for me, and we've shared this before, is, I used to always approach things as, okay, they're gone. I don't want to say so much like let it go, but for lack of a better way to put it, all right, let it go, they're gone. They're not coming back. I think with somebody, and I said I'm guilty of this. How much longer am I going to hear about this person who's gone? They're gone. Like, just stop. And I have to admit now, it's like, wow, do I really owe this? I really owe this person an apology, because, like Tammy said, we lose. I lost grandparents. I've lost. I lost a younger sister, and again, I'm like, it's my baby sister. She's not supposed to go before me. Mm-hmm. At the same time, losing her was I'm going to say quote unquote easy. She had an illness. She was
Right.
ill, so we knew, her. I hate to say the word death. I have a hard, saying that word has affected me immensely. But her death was easy to, and again, I don't mean that it's like, get over it. Wasn't as I don't want to say it wasn't as devastating. It was different because we knew.
Well, it was
that
different.
was expected.
She was ill, and you.
That was
And then there was probably kind of a release because at least that person that you loved wasn't hurting anymore.
Yeah,
The illness.
and I remember with her, it's my younger sister, her name was Lynette, or Nettie as we called her. I was active duty at the time, and I remember, getting, the Red Cross, we get the Red Cross message, that said, hey, we need to, she needs to be on emergency leave now, we need her to get home. It's an emergency in the family. And I remember the Red Cross worker, now mind you, we're talking, this was 96, maybe? Okay, so it's many years ago, 96, maybe, yeah, it had to be 96, because I was still active duty. I retired in 97, maybe it was 95. But anyway, I remember the Red Cross lady, her name was Cindy, I was like, okay, let me figure out how I want to do this. Do I want to drive? Do I want to fly? And she couldn't say anything. She wasn't allowed to disclose, just how grave the situation was.
Oh, really?
No, she could, I could hear her say, well, let me know as quick as you can. Whatever you want to do, let us know. Because, like I said, I was active duty. Red Cross was going to get, I'm a soldier. They're going to get me and my family home. And I was like, well, it's me, and I had the 3 kids, and I think I was married. Was I married? Yeah, I was married at the time. So it was myself, my husband at the time, and 3 kids. Well, there's 5 of us that have to go. Do I want to fly? Do I want to drive? And if I fly, I have to consider this, and Cindy's on the phone. But anyway, long story short, I had, say if I'm on the phone with Cindy at 10, I'm back on the phone with my family at 10:30, and my sister was gone, in just that short time frame.
Wow.
And so when I called Cindy back, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going to drive now because... And, she then disclosed, that she knew that, the situation was grave and that, there was obviously, there was the chance I was going to get on a plane. Even if I had gotten on a plane, right then and there, I would not have made it back to Jersey, for my sister. But again, even, with that, it was, a large part of planning her service. It's different than, again, planning your child's service. And, I can imagine the thought that, Tammy put into, Carson's service in that I'm doing this to remember my son, who, I loved and adored. And you talk about, mama and her children, the love between them. My God, it was, it's ridiculous, in a good way. And also, oh, by the way, those of y'all who are his friends, I want you, I want you to see this, and it's also indicative of the, explosion, that we have here, in our own county in Pasco, where, people are not aware of, kids, oh, I have a headache. I need, some kind of pain pill. And instead of, hey, Mom, Dad, go get me a Tylenol, it is, hey, let me call a friend, who has a hookup, as they call it, to get me, something, maybe a little stronger than a Tylenol, not realizing that this pill that you're taking, unfortunately, is, potentially laced with fentanyl, and, they're in this one little pill, this one mistake is, or mistake choice, and there's your life. I could imagine the kids that she was talking about, it's sadly, the 3 overdoses and
just in days.
Right, and thankfully they survived. But again, it's
But it could have been a very different
exactly.
ending.
It sure could.
And the devastation. It's devastating anyways, but then the devastation of that on top of, and trying to, bring just like we're trying to bring the awareness. It's like, look, this is real. This is happening right here. And
that is a hashtag, one pill, hashtag one pill can kill. Or if it isn't, it should be. But I think there was a campaign out there somewhere that is, one pill can kill. And, and I don't know whether, of course, in my own work, but thank you, Rob. He's got it up on the screen there. One pill can kill. Because again, unfortunately, whether and I don't want to just say, kids, but unfortunately, it does affect, our youngsters more so than adults, that they don't realize that one pill, you think that you're, I'm getting rid of this headache. I'm going to pop this thing. I'm going to take this pill that's going to help with the anxiety, the depression, the social angst or whatever's going on, and things are going to be better. Not realizing that what you're putting in your body, you don't know. You think you trust the person that you came from, or let me back up. You trust the person that you got it from, so you think, but you don't know who they got it from, and you're basically playing Russian roulette with your lives.
Yeah, you are. And it's, with pills, marijuana's laced with it. I mean, you cannot trust anything on the street, period, anymore. And to take that chance, to take that chance. I think we, as adults, think a little bit more about that, but at that age, they don't have that.
Well, I don't know. And Tammy, I may push back on, as adults, do we think about that a little bit more? I may push back on that, because remember,
well, no, there's still a lot, I know, but...
My child was an adult,
Well, that's true.
And, again, but I understand.
But you know what I
don't mean to sound, to contradictory, but I think as adults, I want to say, yes, we do process it at a different level, where I think children tend to be, I think we may agree, are more reckless than adults are. Well,
they haven't had that experience.
That's true. That's true.
But, well, I'm glad she was able to come on and share. And like I said, Rob put up the Facebook page that she did. I think that's awesome. I can't imagine. I remember years and years ago, my first time going to a funeral of a child. It was friends of mine, in the business world here, and their son was 16 years old, and he died in a car crash. It was a single car crash. Going to a funeral of a 16-year-old child who made a mistake is, it was so hard.
It is. I mean, losing children, is devastating. My first child funeral was unfortunately a nephew, and he was less than a year old. And, it was, I remember, and again, I was, active duty, flying in from Kansas, for his service. And I remember, I hear my mom, say to somebody, watch Trish. My family calls me Trish. It's my middle name. And I was like, had the wind knocked out of me because I'm looking at my nephew and, in this casket, this baby casket. And he looked just like Carl when Carl was a baby.
Oh, jeez.
And, and so, as sisters, we, there's, three of us and our mom who share, the loss of children. My mom's lost, we've lost two of my siblings, but yeah, again, just, bear in mind, Tammy's story and stories like Tammy's, and educating, our youth, and adults, that, again, one pill can kill. And, if stories like Carson or anybody, and those like his, and us sharing our stories in this platform, if it saves just one person, I would say we've done our job.
Yep.
Yeah, we've done our job.
That's just it, for sure. That's why we're here. I asked you earlier in the week, did you get a chance to look for books?
No, you know what's
Yeah.
funny is I was. This is it's been I would say crazy week. It's like a
It's,
crazy.
I think the universe has been weird this
It
week.
is. You know, for me, next week, Tuesday, we're taking a group of students up to Tallahassee, you know, for Advocacy Day. And, you know, we're doing, you know, I think Drug Free America and whatnot is and very heavily involved in that. But yeah, I'm, you know, thinking of, you know, let me look up some, you know, books and then, you know, getting the quote.
Awesome.
I had like triple duty this week. I did the synopsis.
I know. It was like, okay, it's all on you this week.
It was. I mean, but I loved it, and I was like, wait, book. Okay, I'll do that. I'll find a book for.
Because I was even at the beginning of the night, I was like, oh, geez, what are we doing? And then it was like this, okay, Bonnie, how about this? Da-da-da. And then it was like, oh, okay, you can take over this week.
Exactly. So as we're clocking it down, Rob, our
Yes.
quote. So life isn't about falling. Life isn't about getting back up, or life isn't about falling. It's about getting back up every time you fall. And I think, you know, I picked this one because I think it was indicative to, you know, what Tammy was sharing in terms of life has thrown so much at us. You know, we get knocked down, whether it is through a loss, whether it is through, you know, just all of the crappy stuff that life throws at us. It's about, you know, getting back up, you know, and, you know, the remembrance of, Rob, our numbers real quick. You know, putting these numbers in your phone, having those at, you know, your beck and call, and, you know, the fact that the 988 number goes on. And remember,
There's always hope, right?